Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. This can be a great conversation, and Dustin has kindly brought a strange-looking prop, which I'm a little bit worried about in this era of sexual harassment in San Francisco. In any case, he's going to talk about it in a second.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Dustin is one of the co-founders of Facebook, which is a little company you might have heard of. If you saw the movie, he was the guy typing a lot in the movie. He did an excellent job.
Headphones on.
And he's also the co-founder of Asana, which is a workplace collaboration company, and also very active with social issues and donations as a foundation, everything else. So we're going to talk about what it means to be an entrepreneur in today's world. So let's just start by talking a little bit about Asana and what you guys are doing, and then we'll get to your strange device. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So Asana is a company whose mission is to help all teams in the world collaborate effortlessly. So we do that by building software that helps teams track their work and really answer the who, what, when of collaboration. So what steps are left between now and accomplishing our next milestone in a certain project, who's responsible for each of those steps, and when are they expected to be done. That's sort of the nutshell of it.
So you started it, you were at Facebook for how long when you were?
A little short of 5 years. So,
5 years from when you started it to when you went away, and then you went away and then started a separate company.
Yeah, and really the genesis of Asana is, as a leader, I was the leader of the engineering organization at Facebook and was facing the problem of collaboration there, so ended up building collaboration software as an internal tool at Facebook. Saw how powerful it was to help teams move faster, stay on the same page, realized the problem was universal. And we really left Facebook, Justin, my co-founder, and I, to start Asana and build this for the rest of the world.
So let's talk a little bit about the journey of an entrepreneur, because one thing we were talking about backstage is that your first startup worked out pretty well for you, Facebook.
Yeah.
That's not a situation with a lot of entrepreneurs, that you usually struggle through several different companies. But it's the same story, even if you have a success right out, like a big success like Facebook. So why don't you talk a little bit about that idea that we were discussing, like that it's not the difficulties and the romanticization of entrepreneurs, because I think this group wants to think about what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and a lot of it is romanticized, and by movies or media or whatever, or themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and the Social Network is a great example of the movie. It's really quite fictionalized and very glamorized. In real life, we weren't spraying champagne all over our laptops and hanging out with models and things like that.
Right.
It just wasn't like that. We were just, we were sitting around a table, staring at our computers, with headphones on, doing a bunch of hard work. And so when you're a new entrepreneur, you're thinking about entrepreneurship, you look at things like this, you look at the stories in the media, and it feels a little more like Hollywood than what it really is, which is office work. And a lot of people, sort of get into entrepreneurship. People have a variety of reasons for getting into entrepreneurship, but a lot of it is they want to start the next Facebook or Google. They think that'll be really great. They think it'll, maybe make their life feel complete. They'll have succeeded. So first of all, as you said, very rare to actually have that outcome. And as I learned, even when you have that outcome, it doesn't feel like, oh sweet, I made it to the top of the hill, now life is over, and it was like super easy. Even when you're growing really fast, your expectations recalibrate, investors' expectations recalibrate, and the difficulty level increases to match where you are. So I actually saw, even a couple months ago, Stuart Butterfield, who runs Slack, runaway success story in enterprise. A lot of times, even as another enterprise company, we're growing fast, but it's hard not to look at Slack and be like, oh, I wish we were, having it as easy as they were, getting all this, free press.
And in fact, Slack was a failure initially. The original company was a gaming company that was a failure, that they then pivoted and actually did an actual pivot, even though people talk about it, to a totally different business.
Right, so it was many years of hard work to get there, but even when they got there, I mean, this was just a few weeks ago, he said, it's actually really hard to be the CEO of Slack because people just, again, level up the expectations and they get this high valuation and all of a sudden you have to get an even higher valuation and just, the sort of stress level matches the intensity of the growth.
So let's talk a little bit about what it takes to be an entrepreneur today, because I think things are changing. One of the things I've been writing and thinking about a lot is the responsibility of technologists to the things they create, one, to the cycle of innovation, how you come up with innovation, where it comes from, which means that it doesn't just come from Silicon Valley, it comes from a more diverse set of people.
Yeah.
So talk about what you think the challenges are that are the same and how you broach them, and then what you think has changed in the tech innovation space.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll use this as a segue to
Okay.
use the gun
All
on
right,
the wall.
okay.
So one of the challenges of entrepreneurship is it's just very stressful. You're talking to hard-hitting reporters all the time.
Yeah,
You're
hard-hitting.
on stage events where the
Yeah.
couches go 5 feet back.
Yeah.
And so you really have to take care of yourself. I brought the Back Buddy for Kara.
Okay.
And this is basically my favorite product in the entire world. It only costs $30. You can get it on Amazon. And the basic concept is, it's a personal massage tool. So you can really get leverage, kind of dig into your back that has this like nice pointy end. It feels really amazing. So it's a way to just sort of be able to take care of yourself. You can also kind of, once you go deeper with it, really get to understand, you can kind of use it for self-chiropractic. I use it in my yoga practice. Really love it. Recommend it for everyone. No, they don't pay me to say this.
So show me a yoga move, please, then.
Okay, I'll show you.
All right, okay,
I showed you
all
this
right.
backstage. So there's a bunch of different things, but when I travel, this fits into a suitcase as long as it's checked baggage. A yoga block wouldn't. It would take up like half the suitcase. So maybe I'll just step over here if you don't mind. So you can kind of use this as support, for example, in a triangle
Nice,
pose.
Dustin.
Hopefully I'm not exposing my armpit. Triangle pose.
Woo!
Bunch of different things like that.
So
Anyway.
tell me why you like this. Sorry, it's very simple. It's super
Yeah.
simple. It's a piece of plastic that's shaped with
Totally, yeah.
unusual things popping off of it.
Yeah.
So what do you think, why is that at $30 so interesting you from an entrepreneurial sense of, because it solves a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that entrepreneurs love best. It's leverage, right?
Right.
And really
Right.
just being able, people can self-massage, you can do this kind of thing, you can use your thumbs, you get tired really quickly. Being able to use 2 hands, put your whole body weight into it, just really changes the game. I know many people who love this as much as I do. Just
Right.
trust me on it.
But what do you, I want to think about it from an innovative point. It solves a problem. It's a very simple way to do that, correct?
Yeah.
As a product.
Yeah, as a product, yeah.
Right. Do you think that gets lost in today? Like, I want to get to what you think creates a correct entrepreneur these days, what it does. Because it seems to me a lot of the stuff coming out of Silicon Valley right
I
now
see what you mean, yeah.
seems trivial, I'll be
Sure.
honest with you. A lot of it has to do, I make a joke that San Francisco's become assisted living for millennials, because a lot of the inventions have to do with delivery, do your laundry, get you water, get you fresh kombucha, whatever it is,
Sure.
and it seems trivial to me, and not it doesn't have a wide enough perspective. So,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how you think about products and product creation.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely you sort of gave me the lead there, but I really think that the best entrepreneurship is going after important problems in the world. It's really easy to look at Silicon Valley through the lens of like Juicero and these sort of convenience products. I think if you look at it through the lens of value creation, though, or even like market cap as a proxy for that, it really paints a different picture where most of the really valuable companies, the ones that build a ton of business value, provide a lot of value to end users, are doing things that are solving real problems. My favorite is enterprise software, things that are really infrastructure for the world, because then you kind of get a hand in every other problem in the world. So I like to talk about Asana as really solving a meta problem, right? So whether it's you think about education or healthcare, nonprofits, even government entities, you can find Asana customers that are great examples of that. Including one of my favorites is the city of Providence, Rhode Island, where everyone from like the mayor's office on down uses Asana to make sure that they're able to respond to the needs of citizens. Don't let are able to have the clarity about what's important. Are able to have clarity of we say plan, purpose, and responsibility. And it just makes for a better city, makes things more efficient. They're able to help more citizens.
So, but specifically when you're being an entrepreneur, what do you think the qualities that are necessary today then to become, to do, because entrepreneurs has changed, venture capital has changed.
Yeah.
What are the key attributes, and then maybe what are the key negatives you have to avoid now? I mean, obviously the obsession with valuation has not been a positive thing for entrepreneurs.
Say that again?
The obsession with valuation.
Yep, sure.
So talk about what works and what doesn't work today from your perspective when you're thinking, because you do investments too at the same time.
Not really. I'm not
Okay.
really an angel investor.
All right. What do you
Yeah.
what do you think are critical elements of
So
entrepreneurship?
critical elements of entrepreneurship. So one, I think you need to have clarity of purpose. So I think that I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they sort of get in, they maybe first decide they want to do entrepreneurship, and then they say, okay, I'm just going to think of like all the ideas that might, get a VC interested, that might make money. And then I think it's easy to sort of, you end up a couple years down the line, you say, well, actually, this isn't very meaningful, this isn't very fulfilling. You give up or you sell the company. So I think it's really important that you have intentionality about what you're trying to do from the very beginning. You have to have a lot of persistence because it's going to be, really, really hard. I think I like to talk about entrepreneurs are kind of like ducks in terms of how they're portrayed in the media, where everything looks calm on the surface, but in reality they're kind of like paddling like hell underneath. And so you need to be able to sort of weather those storms because they're going to happen a lot. You need to be able to communicate well. You need to be able to both convince investors to support your idea, and also just employees, reporters, just a ton of people, just over and over again. You're sort of talking about why your idea is important. Anti-qualities. I think if you're in it for just for the money, then first of all, you might be really disappointed because the vast majority of startups, at least in the tech industry, just fail outright and don't even get positive return on the investment, something like 95% or something. And it's actually a bit of a fallacy that that's the best way to make a lot of money, because now you can go and work for a more established company, have huge base comp, especially if you're in a technical role. Or you can work for a sort of semi-established company like Asana, have decent base comps, still have a lot of upside potential in your compensation. So that's kind of a bad reason to get into it. And then another is if you're in it for the lifestyle or the glamour because you think you're kind of going to be able to be your own boss.
Right.
I think for the vast majority of entrepreneurs, you really are much more in a supporting role and sort of at the you have to answer to a bunch of different constituents, whether it's your investors, your board, your employees. You're always sort of serving their needs first and foremost, rather than just kind of
So this is called Startup University. So give me an example of something you did wrong and corrected, or didn't correct, or didn't either at Facebook, at the early Facebook, or at Asana, or anywhere else. Give me an example of something where you were like, that was an enormous mistake and I shouldn't have done it.
Okay, well, I've never made a mistake, Kara.
Okay, all right, good. Good to know.
So the thing I've written about that's actually gotten the most interest is about work-life balance. I have this post on Medium called "Work Hard, Live Well," and it really talks about what I see as a mistake for myself in the early days of Facebook, where I just kind of sprinted too hard. I really didn't appreciate that the intensity of the work not only would keep going for many, many years, but would actually get harder and harder. And just really burnt myself out, had back problems, wasn't eating well, wasn't taking care of myself, wasn't exercising. And so that's something I really had to evolve on. Now I'm much more mindful of making sure that I'm really stopping to recharge in a bunch of different ways, both during the day, taking my nights and weekends, also taking vacations.
Which is sort of against the idea of an entrepreneur who's charging at all times, essentially.
Well, I wouldn't say it's intrinsically against the idea, but I think it's against the sort of image that a lot of people portray. But I think when you look at older entrepreneurs or second-time entrepreneurs, a lot of them tend to have my point of view. Even Zuck at Facebook now has a family. He's largely changed his pace. When Sheryl Sandberg came in, she introduced better parental leave policies. Facebook's always had a sabbatical program. You kind of have to evolve as you start to need, frankly, people that are further along in their careers and further along in their life and have different kinds of lifestyles. So
you're advocating rest.
I advocate rest. I advocate balance. And I wouldn't say, I think the thing that is important for an entrepreneur is you still have to work intensely. You have to work hard. That's why that's the title of my, my blog post. But you have to treat it more like a marathon, right? A marathon is, marathon runners run incredibly fast, but they run incredibly fast for 2.5 hours. And so you have to pace yourself, and you have to be really mindful about it.
All right, the last thing I want to talk about, because we only have a few more minutes, is right now in Silicon Valley, it's being roiled by issues of sexual harassment and all kinds of things. But it really does boil down to diversity of thought and diversity of opinion and diversity of talent, because a lot of it stems from sort of a monoculture of white guys, essentially. And some of them are great, but quite a few of them are not so great. Can you talk about that idea of how that changes? Because it seems to me in the next era going forward, innovation does not come from a monoculture of the same kind of people. So can you talk just very briefly about that idea of how did Silicon Valley get to that and then obviously lead the way? Because I've noticed in China and other places there's much more diversity of of everything. So how does it solve it? Does it solve that problem, or is it something that's going to be its downfall? Yeah.
You know, I think it's really an evolution. You know, I think it's easy to point at tons of examples of companies, of venture capital firms that are treating it as a serious problem, taking steps in the right direction. Those aren't very big steps; they're not happening quickly, but things are starting to slowly change. You know, one of the things we did at Asana is we introduced a diversity program and actually hired a full-time person to run it when we were only 100 employees, partially because I knew it would just take a lot of hard work and we'd really improve things sort of 1% at a time. But over a 10-year period, that results in pretty radical change. So I think that's going to be the same thing for the Valley. It's possible everything will explode before then.
Right.
But I think the conversation is happening. People are paying more attention to it. There's a lot more empathy and mindfulness. A lot more reporters writing the important stories. And you know, I'm optimistic that you know, things are going in the right direction.
So why did it get that way, from your perspective? I mean, Facebook was a pretty dude culture for a long time, but then Sheryl came in and others and sort of changed it, and it's one of the more successful companies. It's still, the numbers are still really bad for them and other. Facebook's is better, for example, but and I don't know what Asana's is, but why do you think that is? Where do you think it stems from?
You know, I think just sloppy pattern matching. You know, I don't know if you remember the book Thinking Fast and Slow, but you know, Kahneman talks about, you know, type 1 and type 2 thinking, and really, you know, I think people just when they're lazy, they just rely on that kind of stereotyping. And you even have some quotes from a lot of famous venture capitalists of, you know, our target entrepreneur is the, you know, college dropout, white male, single, all these sort of things, and the data doesn't actually support it, but because you know, because there's this history of it, it becomes sort of self-perpetuating, and we have to just try really hard to have mindfulness, drop into that sort of type 2 thinking, what are we really targeting, and really just actively fight our sort of intrinsic cognitive biases. Yeah.
Okay. And finishing up, I want you to give me one prediction of what you think will be the biggest trend in entrepreneurship going forward, or innovation, or maybe your own wish list of what you might happen. And you can't say jetpack, but go ahead.
Jetpack?
You can't say jetpack. A lot of entrepreneurs say, I want a jetpack.
No, I think
you can't have one.
That's an easy answer for me, which is I think that there's just a huge trend in people becoming a lot more mission-oriented, caring about, you know, again, this purpose for why does this company exist? Why am I working on this? And I think this goes well beyond Silicon Valley. This is just something that young people care more and more about, is they don't want to work for a company for more than just their paycheck and understand the impact it's having on the world. So I think that's been a rising tide for the past 5 years. And I think, you know, 5-10 years from now, it's just going to be the sort of dominant story for companies.
So you think tech has grown up finally, or not?
Growing up.
Growing up.
We're somewhere in the maturation stage.
So 14 or 15 years old?
Maybe like 12. Yeah.
Okay, 12 years old.
We're in
All
our
right.
awkward.
All right, everyone.
Stages.
Dustin Moskovitz.
Thanks, everyone. Here, you got to take this.
Thank you.